All right, welcome to the show, folks. If you don't know who I am Mike Asherbrander, the proud and humble leader of the Hounds of Business community and professionally known as the Redneck Connector. And you are tuning in to Mike King Biz Radio on ESPN RVA 106.1 FM. Folks, do we have a special treat for you? I am beyond excited, man. This is who we roll with in the Hounds, folks. Uh, Hollywood stuntman, former Hollywood stuntman turned soul guide. All right. Unbelievable. Okay? He discovered something profound that helps most high achieving professionals completely miss when it comes to success and fulfillment. Cannot wait to talk to this great man with a great background. It's going to be a fun. Take notes, folks. If you're watching live, welcome. Thank you. And if you're driving around Richmond right now or at the desk, hey, you won't be sorry. All right. Take notes. We're going to have a blast, folks. Let's roll this intro and get this party started.
Looks like your business might be in a bit of a pickle. Don't you worry about a thing. You ain't alone in this. You're just a success story waiting to happen. Trust me on that. Every bump in the road is just an opportunity wearing a clever disguise. Welcome to the Hounds of Business community, where we don't just sit around twiddling our thumbs. Nope. We turn those obstacles into mighty fine stepping stones. This here's a place where high-level entrepreneurs and sharp professionals gather to grow their businesses and mindsets, kind of like how a good old gumbo needs the right ingredients to be something special. Ideas thrive here, and collaborations, well, they're as natural as sweet tea on a hot day. Success, it's a journey, and we're fixing to walk that road right beside you. Now, don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn for all the latest tips and insights. We're talking about the kind of wisdom that'll keep you ahead of the game. And while you're at it, head on over to our YouTube channel. We've got ourselves a treasure trove of videos, from expert interviews to webinars, everything you need to stay sharp in this fast-moving world of business. The Hounds of Business community? Well, we ain't just a network, we're a movement. So why not come on and be part of something bigger? Join us today and let's turn your business journey into a real Southern success story. Together, we'll achieve greatness, just like crawfish and singing on a Friday night.
All right, folks. Well, this man is all across the pond in the UK. So let's bring him up, Curtis Rivers, and let's see if he knows anything about crawfish fishing singing on a Friday night. Welcome to the show, Curtis. Pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to chatting with you.
My goodness. All right. And he knows my lingo. Apparently, he says the same lingo. We all got the lingo. So there's me and rednecks everywhere, right, Curtis?
Yeah, we have our version of rednecks over here in the UK.
Yeah, see, my Canadian friends told me Alberta was full of me. So if I go to Canada, first stop at Alberta, right? So, all right, well, welcome to. Let's start off because you're helping people in a big way, and it's just wild. I love the Hound stories, friends of the Hounds. You know, you're doing one thing, and then all of a sudden, like a 180, right? So let's dive into it. You live what most folks would call an extraordinary life. I sure would, man. Hollywood stunts, Guinness World Records, working on James Bond film. I mean, wow, man. So, but here's what I find most fascinating. You walked away from all of that. So take us back to the moment when you realized something was missing or you want to take a different direction. What was that like? Fill us in, brother.
Well, it began as a sinking feeling in my stomach that, oh no, I've kind of painted myself into a corner. I've spent all these years perfecting a craft that isn't really me. So it started as a kind of feeling in the pit of my stomach that maybe I was in the wrong place, and it got worse and worse and worse until, I couldn't sleep at night. I didn't want to go into work. What used to be an excited drive to a film set just filled me with dread. I wasn't happy when I got there. And what happened was I just started to put more and more of a mask on. It was harder and harder. I'd pull up in that car, take a really deep breath, put my baseball cap on and clip in my radio. And it got longer and longer between that moment of pulling up on the film set and getting out of my car and heading onto the set until it was almost impossible to do so.
Wow. Okay. So forgive me, but hey, listen, I've heard it too. And a lot of folks can relate to this, right? Like on the outside, everything's great. People want to go, get the money, fame, notoriety, authority, but then you're still felt empty, right? So let me ask you, if you don't mind, I got to imagine there's people in your life saying, Curtis, you're crazy, man. Like, you got it made. Look at all the stuff you got and all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. So how did you handle those internal, external voices, right? the little ones in your own head and the people who mean well, who said, "Oh man, just stop, stop complaining." Right? They didn't get it.
Yeah, a lot of people buy into that. I'm not happy at the moment, but I will be once I have that next house. When I move from this one bed apartment, when we have 2 bedrooms, I'll be happy. And then they move. And when I'm in that detached property, that's when I'll be really happy. And it goes on. And I've been there, bought the t-shirt big time, right?
Yeah.
I really thought, I come from very humble beginnings and worked my way up. And there was always people who seemed to be more successful than me and happier. They drove a better car. There were even as a stuntman, early days, I would be embarrassed at the car I drove and park it around the corner on location and walk in. So nobody saw this because they all had really high-end cars. I drove a Ford for a number of years,
I did that when I was in finance. Yeah, you don't want to be a financial advisor with a hoopty. Yeah, keep going, brother.
Exactly. So there's that perception that most have. And in this day and age, it's the perception of those people have more followers than me, more likes to my posts, that they must be more popular and must be happier. And the older and wiser you get, you realize, like on Instagram, it's all fake. 99% of it is all fake, smoke and mirrors. And they're sacrificing, even the ones making money at it, they're sacrificing a life to get a little bit of adulation. And like you say, some people thought I was nuts. You've trained all these years. It took me 7 years to train to be a stuntman, the same as it takes in the UK for a doctor. And it wasn't easy by any means. So all of that training that you've done, and you're going to throw it all away for what, for this woohoo stuff. And once the ego is gone, and I operate from a place where the ego isn't there, it doesn't matter. You can smile at these people. Now, I get it. I can see why you would say that, but I've got to follow my heart, It's more important for me to be authentic and walk tall as my authentic self than it is to get likes and follows and adulation, because it means nothing at the end of the day when you don't wake up in the morning excited to embrace the day. I've just lost your sound there, Mike. I'm not sure if it's...
Uh-oh. Can y'all hear me now?
You're back. There you go.
Oh, thank you for that.
I was trying to lip read, but I'm not very good at it.
Well, we have an expression that what you just touched on, Curtis. The grass is always greener on the other side, but you still have to mow it, right? So, and one of the things, so you and I have this in common. And I think this is why it's remarkable. I call it dirt poor. I say, folks, you can't even burn dirt. Like, how do you create something with nothing? Like, literally. But you grew up, as you just mentioned, in low-income housing. So let's go back a little bit. You spent time at the library, right? And then you got this bold dream, right, to become a stuntman. I can imagine kids and people were like, whatever, man, just, and that takes serious guts. So here's what I'm curious about. What was that fearless kid, was that the real you? Or were you performing then? Like, was that the real you that said, hey, I'm going to be somebody, even though my circumstances and my poverty, I'm going to be somebody. Was that the real you back then?
Yeah, it was the real me in terms of it was childlike naivety, really.
Yeah.
But I had an 11-year-old sense of the fact that if somebody else could do it, why couldn't I? In that childlike, well, if I go to a judo club and put a white belt on, and some other kid over there is wearing an orange belt, they had a white belt on 6 months ago. So if they can learn, why can't I? And I really did think like that. And as I started as a child, because going back a little bit, I was the exact opposite to what you'd think of as a potential stuntman. I wasn't very sporty. I was a bit of a nerd. I was always in my bedroom reading books, had a little microscope and a telescope, like a proper nerd, The only time I did anything remotely daring was out playing with my friends, in the woods, lighting fires, swinging from trees, running and seeing who could jump the furthest or drop the highest, But beyond that, I was kind of a shy retire. I still am quite shy, really, in my private life. And these are all just little obstacles to overcome, So I got into acting way out of my comfort zone as a 12-year-old, started to join stage school and do that in the background because I knew I'd have to become a professional actor. I started doing martial arts. I took up boxing when I was 14.
Wow.
So these are all things started to do just to get momentum going as a child. I did my first parachute jump at 16, a couple of days after my 16th birthday. And it just went on and on like that without a break until I was 25 years old. Really dug in and did it full time from 18 to 25, the training, 7 years full time training to be a stuntman. And, you know, that people laughed along the way, but on that journey, I kept learning new things. I'd get on a horse and fall off a few times. A few months later, I was doing show jumping. You can learn anything if you put your mind to it.
You know, that's our mantra in the Hounds, right? We turn dog poo into fertilizer and teach other people to do the same. Most people fall off and say, well, I'm not going to ride a horse. You know, I'm not going to be a jockey. You fall off and say, hey, I can get a successful career off of this, right, as a stuntman. And you hit something that we forget, man. We grow up, we become business people. But I'm seeing my 6-year-old daughter, and her imagination is extraordinary. And I am terrified of that being eroded. You know, like, well, stop that. Be a realistic, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm guarding her like a bubble, man. I'm like, hey, you keep that. I tell her all the time, you keep that, right? And if anybody's listening out there, you could be 40, 50, 100 years old. Hey, I love it. We see people doing that. I mean, we're not spraying chickens and what's the word for it? We're reinventing ourselves, and more accurately, we're becoming our best selves, our true selves at 44 and older. So here's what I want to do before we dive in the heart of the matter. All right. That awakening, right? So you describe it as going from stuntman to soul guide. Paint me a picture. When did that transformation actually look like today? Like what? Because a lot of folks out there are successful just like you, but we're feeling empty just like you did. And they're like, how do you even begin to change course?
Well, I guess step one sounds basic, but recognizing that you do have that challenge. That because it's a gradual creeping feeling of there's got to be more to life than this. But most people as humans, you know, we put a brave face on. Maybe I'm having a bad day. Maybe I'm being ungrateful. I've got a mortgage to pay. I've got mouths to feed. Maybe I'm being a bit selfish, thinking these thoughts, you know, I should be grateful. Some people are unemployed, and all of these little voices in the wings. Or in our minds, trying to pull us back because we're heading out of our comfort zone. And these voices try and pull us back into our safe space, whereas real growth and some really exciting adventures await us outside of our comfort zone. And that's where I spend a lot of my time. I call it the wobble zone, that place between comfort where we've got well established and entertaining a new idea that isn't quite in resonance with our subconscious. And I teach a lot of this on my courses and help people through that. So, yeah, it's a case of recognizing it for what it is. Step one, okay, I am ready for change. I can't go on like this. I'm not happy. This isn't going well, but how can I make a change? That's step one. And that's where we begin with the mindset and a deep dive, a really big deep dive into what makes a person tick, psychologically, background, and dig a little bit in an esoteric sense, in a holistic sense, into the actual what drives them deep within their soul.
There it goes again, mime impression. I don't know what's happening. I've spoken from true experience, my friend, because I can hear it. I had the tapes. I heard, oh, but Curtis, you don't understand. See, I got a 401k. I don't, I got benefits. If I do that, I might lose this. I might lose that. I might lose friends. See, and we're going to jump in the heart of that matter. But before we do, I got to give a shout out to Mike King Biz Radio. Our partnership, I say it every week. It's like when they put PB and J in the same jar, Curtis, man, I'm still talking about it, right? 20 years later. This guy, he pushes up his community, his local business. He's expanding his reach. And our partnership does that, right? So thank you, Mike King. And they put this guy on the Jumbotron. When he goes to the ball games over in Virginia, they love him. And we love you too, Mike King. We appreciate this, being able to spotlight folks like Curtis, provide a safe haven and encouragement for people who could do something. They just need that push, and they need to get over those negative tapes. So thank you so much, ESPN, RBA. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And by the way, folks, don't do this alone. There's nothing wrong with you. Okay? If you're trying to build a business, you just need the people, resources, support, and guidance to get it done. Shameless plug, Hounds of Business. You can find us on YouTube. All right, Hounds of Business. You can find us on LinkedIn, or you can send me an old school carrier pigeon. Might take a while from the UK to get there, but hey, we'll do it. So back to Curtis. Man, I am loving this conversation. We got to extend this thing. We got to have you back part two for sure soon. Uh, but you work with a lot of business owners, all right, and heart center professionals. They've achieved success, lost themselves along the way. I see it a lot. I've been there. All right, all right. What do you see? What do you see when someone first comes to you? What does that emptiness look like in general for most people? Like, how can they identify it? What do you see in them?
Well, it varies. It's surprisingly, there's some sort of a shame often attached to it, a feeling of guilt. They're almost guilty for wasting my time, as if, I'm here to help. But that's a kind of recurring theme of, I hope I'm not wasting your time, but ... I really don't know what to do next. I've spent X amount of years going into this profession and it's taken me here and I'm just lost. And we have a conversation. I see the same theme again and again, where they've stayed there a few years too long because of the mortgage or the mouths to feed, or fear of change, fear of ridicule, fear of judgment from their neighbors and their friends, and what will the neighbors think, and fear of what if it doesn't work? What if I pivot to this and everyone laughs and I'll look like a failure? And all of these. It's all nonsense, of course, we know that, but these are very real to the people when they first arrive at my door. And these are things that we deal with. They're just limiting beliefs, limiting emotions. And that's part of what I do during the therapy and the healing side, because even people without realizing they need any healing like that, in emotional help, it does and it will bubble up as soon as we reimagine what their life is going to look like during the realignment phase. These things bubble up, and that's where I step in to hold their hand through the journey, and we do some work together and do a lot of healing, a lot of deep healing, to put all of that to bed so they can. It's like taking rocks out of a backpack. They don't even know they've been carrying them for all these years until they get taken out and they feel light and wonderful again.
Exactly. Curtis, you hit the nail on the head. I love your style. You're not here with an agenda and all of this weirdness and bothering people. People just, they can sense it. They know. They've seen your story and they open up. And you're talking as a friend. You really care about them. That's the difference. It's not just a job. You get it. Yeah, and so if they need to stop and talk for 2 hours about X, you're going to do that, because fast forwarding that process is not helping them. Most people don't even understand. You hit the nail on the head. And Boz Porter's in here too. Ashiv, Boz, Christy, thank you so much. They get it, right? So you're meeting people where they're at. And here's what I found. Curtis, you're the expert. Everybody's messed up. They're just better. Other people are better at hiding it than I am. That's what I realized. I was like, man, anything that I'm struggling with, and doubt, fear, shame, man, most of the population is either struggling or has struggled. And the only difference maker is those who are aware and ready and those who aren't yet to deal with it. And that's why we're putting out here, folks. If you're ready and you're just like, man, it's like an Olympic champion running a race with a boat anchor attached to him. We got to cut that boat anchor off. That's Curtis Rivers. He's been there. He's done that, right? He's reinventing himself. So go to alignmentcompass.com. I had to put that out there because, people they might leave early, and I want to make sure. Go get the resources, connect with him at alignmentcompass.com. This combo, we got to do a part 2 soon, Curtis. I know. But let me ask this. So you've got a process. All right, reimagine, realign, and reignite. All right, I love that because I've experienced that. And only thing I regret is not knowing you before I had to do this alone. Woo, man, doing this alone. Woo, sweet baby Jesus, right? So break that down for us. Right? Help our listeners understand how they might, know which step they need to focus on right now.
So the reimagine phase, that's centered around mindset, and it goes into a lot of the psychology behind it. It goes into subconscious programming, really. Without getting too deep into it, there's a way of tweaking the software that's running in a person's background. And so I go in deep and we have a little look at that, and we do a little bit of reprogramming, take out the limiting beliefs that aren't serving a person anymore, and we plug in some really beneficial beliefs that are going to help them. So it's about getting rid of the old programming of the old them, the unauthentic them, and dropping in some new programming in the subconscious that's ready to be for the realignment phase, which is often missed. And this is to do with the heart. So there's the mind in the first instance where we reimagine. The realignment takes place in the heart, and it's about our feelings and getting in touch. It's part of that dropping the mask. You know, guys feel like they have to be macho. Real men don't cry. We don't show our emotions, you know.
Yep.
And it's nonsense. So I wore that mask for many years, you know, playing the tough guy on set to survive, being the alpha male. That wasn't me. And it took its toll, you know, on my mental health. It was exhausting. And now I've dropped that mask and stepped out of a more spiritual closet, if you like. But it's effortless because I am just 100% me. There is no act. I don't have to check myself. And so I just get up every day and go with the flow. So it's a perfect place. So getting in touch with feelings, dealing with emotions. And again, in the same way that it can be problematic in the subconscious mind, then we hold all sorts of energetic feeling problems. And I use techniques like emotional freedom technique to release those forever. It's very quick, painless, and that gets rid of any limiting feelings that are connected to our thoughts. And at that point, we're ready to reignite, and that's about taking action. And I hold somebody's hand within my 8-week program. I hold their hand every day, basically for a solid month, in terms of implementing the strategy to take them from where they are now, stuck, unfulfilled, to a life of freedom and living on purpose.
Hey, and if that ain't enough for you, we got Boz Porter in here saying, yep, many men can relate to that. Yes, sir. Also, he was former military, right, in the UK. And thank you for your service, Boz. Good man. And I'm glad to see men saying, you know, listen, let's redefine that, right? Like, I know I was a fireman. So you're right. You know, we see a lot of tragedy, a lot of tough things, and we're supposed to suck it up. Problem with that is we're human before we're men, you know, and that just doesn't work. And so I'm glad to see this. So number one, if anybody out there is thinking, well, you know, I don't see how this is going to help me with my bottom line, with my business growth. Listen, it's simple, folks. You could have the best sales script on earth, best brand, best everything. But if you're not excited, believing it, and it's not inside of you, coming out authentically, you're losing 50% of your sales or more. How do I know that? I've been there, folks. You know, and we're not saying that you have to do it. But if you're sitting there going, man, something's not right, I'm burying my head in the sand and it's not getting better, this is why we're having this convo. This is why we're talking to Curtis. This is why he does what he does. Because there's nothing wrong with you. You just have to have a guide to help you figure out what that part 2 looks like. You know, and not to get preachy, but everything you're saying, my friend, you know, I've lived it. And that's why we do this, man. So let's get in. We only got a few minutes left. Oh, time flies. All right, let's jump into the practical wisdom, because this is what I like most about you. All right, you talk plainer than me, and that's something else. So you talk about the difference between what our egos want and what our soul needs. Right? I learned this the hard way. It is deep. It sounds deep, but I imagine it shows up in very practical ways. So can you give us an example of what that may look like in real life?
Well, the ego in this sense is that still small voice that we touched on earlier of, you know, what will that person think? You know, if I own up and get all emotional and pull my significant other to one side and pour my heart out and explain just how unhappy I am, he or she will think I'm weak. So yeah, they'll think I'm a waste of space. That's not very manly. That's not, and they just make excuses. That's the ego getting in the way. You know, wanting to be the tough guy, you know, sticking your chest out as a man on that film set. You know, I could take you on, I could knock you out with one punch, and all this nonsense, you know, this flexing, you know, and you just kind of grow out of that, right? And but all of those are examples of ego, and in a sense of feeling lost and not knowing where to go next. It's the ego saying that all those things we touched upon in terms of, you're being ungrateful. At least you have a job. Some people are homeless. Some people don't have any work. Who do you think you are to even question this? But when the ego is gone, what's left is a soul having a human experience, saying, I deserve this. I'm worthy. I'm worthy of living a magnificent life on purpose. That's what I'm here for, and making a difference.
Wow, bravo. Because honestly, so here's when I realized that, because the country folks, they're a pretty tough crowd, right? They're a nice crowd, but they're tough. And so I remember Country Cletus. I was out there and I did Pilates. Everybody thought it was a joke. It was Michael Gale, another big tough guy. Right? And so I'm out there and Cletus is talking about his dadgum knees hurting and how nothing's working. And so I showed him this, and you would think, oh, you're gone. You're removed from the country circle. No, I'll tell you what happened is that I got Cletus over here doing downward dog moves, trying to help his kneecaps. I never thought in a million years because, again, hey, do you want to be macho or do you want to feel better, brother? Yeah, I'm tired of not sleeping at night. And this is the impact. When you get healthy inside your business, your life, everything, relationships, friendships, it really is worth the effort. And don't do it alone. Good Lord. All right, I call Curtis if I had a time machine, go back, make it easier. All right, because it is that you have an impact to make. And whatever's in the way of that impact, that's what you need to tackle, folks. I mean, I could be macho, or I can go out there and buy a bunch of kids underserved communities coats next Christmas. Guess what I choose? Am I losing it, or am I on the right track, Curtis? Is this what?
Yeah, absolutely bang on. Yeah, absolutely that. And funnily enough, what I've noticed is when you do come out of your closet, wherever that is, it's sometimes anticlimactic. I held on for years, keeping my private life of meditation and the woohoo side of healing and coaching, and I kept that completely separate from my stunt world. And when I finally just thought, you know what, and the mask came off and I am who I am and I stood tall authentically, there wasn't really that big a reaction, except some people said, oh yeah, I'm into meditation. I love a bit of that. I do yoga. Yeah, I like a bit of downward dog. Yeah, brilliant. Oh, suddenly I was amongst people who, got me on the same wavelength. And that's all that happens is the people on your frequency and on your wavelength, they gravitate to you. And those who don't vibrate with you and on a different bandwidth, they just slip away. And that's a really good place to be. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals.
You just gave the unspoken magic right there. Whatever you think you're going to lose, in my experience, be ready to gain 10 to 100-fold more. Mm-hmm. Whatever perception, I'm going to lose X, I'm going to lose this, I'm going to lose 401k, friends. As soon as I made that decision to follow my heart, it was like the floodgates opened. The right people, the right opportunities. I felt good. Oh, man, and that's why we're here. So we only got 2 minutes, so I'll stop talking. But before we wrap it up, right, tell folks how they can connect with you, right? Your website, what you got going on, and you got some resources to help people get started, correct? Tell us where to go.
Yeah, so alignmentcompass.com, you've mentioned that already. That is a resource. It's a free download that help you take a snapshot, basically, of your life, all the different areas of your life, give yourself a score, creates a little chart, and just really shows what's out of whack and what's looking good, which areas of your life you need to maybe focus on just to bring everything into equilibrium. It's a free tool. CurtisRivers.com is my main website, where there's a video when you arrive there sharing my backstory, where I'm at. And if that resonates, you can reach out and jump on a call with me. I can see how I can help you. I'm across all social media, and I've got a book called The Fearless Path, which is available from all good bookshops and on Amazon.
Folks, either you yourself go out there, discover that, buy someone that book that could benefit from it, whatever it takes, folks. This is, thank you, CJ, for reminding me. This is Men's Mental Health Month. This is why we're talking. We need more men stepping up to the plate, realizing their goals and dreams, impact the daggone world. Curtis, thank you for being one of those forerunners, my friend. Love having you in the pack, and shameless plug. Hey, don't do it alone. No strays out there. You got an impact to make. Hey, we may be your option. And if we're not, you got my promise. I will walk you where you need to go if I know where that is. All right. So, folks, thank you for tuning in. Thank you, everyone. Curtis, we're going to have a part 2, man, if I can get you to do it, because we just scratched the surface. Everyone out there, appreciate you. We'll see you next week. And Mike King, you are the man, brother. Appreciate the opportunity to serve together. Have a good one. Princess Wave time now. There you go.
Looks like your business.
Thank y'all for stopping by. Be sure to follow, share, and like, and send me a message if you had fun today. Y'all come back now.